Hi, welcome to my studio. My name's Chris. In this video, I'm going to try and explain why I have so many reds in my watercolor studio. I have 12 reds. I'm going to swatch out and show you all 12 colors. I'm going to tell you which of these colors you don't need. I'm going to tell you what I look for when I'm choosing paints. And finally, I'm going to give you my list of my favorite reds. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to my studio. I decided to take a look through my collection of watercolor paints and see how many different reds I have. I actually found out that I have 12 different red colors. That's crazy. I don't know why I have so many. Well, I think I do. It's because I love to go on Amazon or to my local art store and buy more paint. I have a whole big collection, and I decided today I'm going to swatch out all 12 colors, and I'm going to evaluate them, and I'm going to let you know what my favorite colors are, and I'm going to make some suggestions. If you're new to watercolor painting and want to know what reds to buy, I'm going to give you my suggestions. So let's get started. So I have gone ahead and arranged spaces for all the 12 colors on this piece of paper. I'm going to start with the warmest red in the upper left corner and proceed around in a clockwise fashion to the coolest red down here in the lower left. I'm going to identify them by name and pigment in a little bit after I swatch them all out. But let's talk a little bit about my goals for this video. My goal in this video, again, is to, first of all, like I said, arrange all the colors from warmest to coolest. I find that to be a really important exercise so I can identify the different colors that I have and know where they sit on the color wheel, because knowing that really helps you when you start to mix these reds with other colors on your palette. So that's my first goal, is to arrange them. But then also, once I've done that, I really want to identify one warm red, one middle red, and one cooler red that I would recommend for beginning watercolor artists. One of the goals in my studio here is to answer some of the questions that I had years ago when I was starting in watercolor. And this is one of those, is really, what red should I buy? And so I'm going to try and answer that question for you. And then again, at the end of the video, I'm actually going to extend that list of 3 colors that I would recommend and actually give you my 5 favorite reds from this list of colors. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this video in fast motion now as I swatch out these 12 colors. And then when I get done and let them dry, I'll come back and give you my opinion and my perspective on these colors. Okay, I waited about 20 minutes and all the paint is completely dry. You can see it dries a little bit lighter in value than when it was wet. First, I want to talk a little bit about the common qualities that all of these paints have. First of all, they are all professional grade paints. I don't use any student grade paints in my studio. Next, they are all single pigment colors. In a moment, I'll go through and give the names and pigment numbers, but I try to usually buy single pigment colors. I find that I get a little bit more predictable results when I'm mixing colors, when I know I have just one pigment, and I prefer that. And also, I always try to buy paints that have a very high Lightfastness rating. All of these paints are rated as either excellent or very good, the highest 2 levels of Lightfastness that you can get. Okay, let's start in the upper left corner. Again, my warmest red on my palette is Pyrrol Scarlet by Daniel Smith. It's a PR255. This color is almost an orange color, and you can see that now that you put them all side by side, how much more orange this color is, even than the one right next to it. The next color is Permanent Red. This is a Magello color, PR112, and It's just a little bit more orange, I think, than the next three colors, though these four colors in the center on the top row are really all quite similar in colors. I said earlier, I have a lot of colors that are somewhat redundant. I don't need this many reds because I have a lot of colors that are really similar in color. As an explanation for that, I've kind of collected all these reds over time. Many of them came in sets that I bought when I was first starting to buy professional grade colors. So again, these four colors in the middle top row, I think are all really quite similar. In fact, these three here are all Pigment PR254. I have three 254s in my studio. Permanent Red Deep by Magello, Pyrrol Red by M. Graham, and Winsor Red by Winsor Newton. Again, they're all PR254. But look at them. You can still see, even though they're all the same pigment, there's slight differences in the colors. Pyrrol Red is the one I use the most, which is that M. Graham color. The Winsor Newton this is the only Winsor Newton I have on my palette, and that's just something that was left over from my mom's watercolor sets, and I like to keep it around just to remember her. Then I get into my little bit slightly cooler color on the top row, and here on the far right, this is Perylene Red by Daniel Smith, PR178. And if you look at that, and again, it's always good to compare them to the ones near them, you can see that this is a cooler color than the ones to the left here. It's got just a little bit more leaning towards the blue end of the spectrum. And it's, again, PR178. That's a Daniel Smith color. I go down now. I'm going in a clockwise fashion here, going down to my next coolest color, and that's going to be Permanent Alizarin Crimson. This is my M. Graham color, PR264. Very dark color. In some ways, you might look at it and think it's actually cooler than the ones over here, but really, it's not. It's just that it's a really, really dark valued color. And so it looks real dark in comparison to some of these others, but it's a true crimson color and is not as cool as some of the ones here as we go along. Again, that's Permanent Alizarin Crimson, M. Graham, PR264. My next color is Rose Madder, Magello, PR176. We're getting even cooler. There's a little bit more of a lean towards violet in this next color. And after that, I have one of my favorite colors, Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith, PV19. Now, this is the first pigment and only pigment, actually, my first pigment, that's a PV or pigment violet instead of a pigment red. So even though it's technically a violet pigment, I do think it really is a red color and falls within that family of hues. So I've included it here, Quinacridone Rose, Daniel Smith, PV19. The next color is Quinacridone Lilac by Daniel Smith, PR122. Again, one step cooler in the colors that I have. Beautiful color. I really love this one, Quinacridone Lilac, PR122. And then next, going even more towards the blue end of the spectrum, Quinacridone Violet by Magello. And what do you know? I got another PV19. This is really interesting. I have two PV19s in this collection of colors. So it's the exact same pigment. And again, these are single pigment colors, but look how different these two colors are. It has all to do with how the manufacturer manufactures and just formulates the color from this pigment in terms of how they get these different hues or colors with the same pigment. So PV19 in both of these, Quinacridone Violet by Magello, PV19. And then my final color on my list of reds is a true red. It's a PR171, but it's called Naphthamide Maroon. It's by Daniel Smith, and I've done another video on this pigment. I love this pigment. It's almost more of an earth tone color, starting to get into the grays a little bit here. I just think it's a beautiful color. I love using it in shadow areas, and that's Naphthamide Maroon, and that's going to be my coolest color of all the reds on my palette. Now I'm just going to give you a little bit of a close-up view of all these colors. One of the goals of my channel, like I said earlier, is to help people who are just getting started in watercolor. And I do that by answering the questions that I had when I was starting. And one of the questions I had was, what colors do I buy? And again, I'm not suggesting that you go out and buy all these 12 colors. I don't think it's necessary. In fact, as I said earlier, some of them are just plain unnecessary. They're redundant. So what I'm going to suggest that you do is if you're just starting out, that you buy at the most, really, one good warm red, one good cool red, and one middle of the road red. And that's what I've marked here. You can see the asterisks here highlighted in yellow. I've highlighted Pyrrol Scarlet PR255. Again, that warmest of the colors on my list of reds. I think it's really good to have a good warm red on your palette. I think it's really also important to have a good cool red. And so I've chosen Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith. That's again PV19. Technically not a red, but like I said earlier, it really presents as a red. And it also makes really beautiful pink colors, which if you're doing florals and all, really important to have a red like this, a cool red that can also move into the pink tones. And so Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith is my choice for a cool color. And then having a red that's kind of a middle of the road red, a good fire engine red, what some people might say a true red, that's going to be my Pyrrol Red by M. Graham PR254. And again, I have 3 254s on here, and any one of them would probably work just great. But I kind of like this M. Graham color. Okay, now as promised earlier, I've added 2 more colors to my list of colors. And this is going to round out my 5 favorite colors. So I've also added to my Pyrrol Scarlet, my Pyrrol Red, and my Quinacridone Rose. Also, I've added Quinacridone Lilac, my Daniel Smith, which is PR122. I just really love this color. I think it's a beautiful color. Mixes great with blues to create wonderful purples and even dark into black colors. Quinacridone Lilac. And also I've added Naphthamide Maroon. I just think this is a really gorgeous color, and it works great for doing value studies. It does great in using it in shadows. It's a muted color and almost a neutral, and I love it. Naphthamide Maroon by Daniel Smith, PR171. So those 5 colors round out my 5 favorite reds on my palette. But again, if you're looking to just buy 2 or maybe 3 colors, again, I would highly encourage a warm red and a cool red to start with, and then maybe a middle red to give you that nice center red color. And if you wanted to add some other interesting colors, Quinacridone Lilac and Naphthamide Maroon are also beautiful colors. I hope you found this to be helpful and interesting as you figure out the reds on your palette and where they sit within the color spectrum. I really encourage you to take whatever colors you have and swatch them out like this, and also to arrange them from warm to cool so you get a sense of where they sit in the color temperature wheel. It's really important. And again, thanks for watching. I put out videos like this about once a week, so check out my channel for my other videos and have a great day.